There's a particular kind of tired that arrives before anything dramatic has happened. It can show up in going blank when a familiar person asks, "What do you think?" On the outside, you may look normal. You may even smile, answer, and keep moving. Inside, though, something starts counting the cost. For people living with freezing, when asked a simple question, the hardest part is often not the moment itself. It is the small expectation wrapped around it. Respond, explain, be easy, be available, make everyone comfortable. Other people can misread that response. They may call it distant, complicated, antisocial, oversensitive, or ungrateful. But pressure can interrupt access to words even when you know what you mean. That does not make every retreat healthy, and it does not mean one label explains a whole person. It simply means behavior has a context. Sometimes the thing that looks like a personality flaw is a person trying to create enough room to hear themselves think. Think about the ordinary version of this. You notice the message, the invitation, the question, the expectation. Your body answers before your words do. Your shoulders tighten. You rehearse a reply. You wonder how much of yourself this moment will require. None of that has to mean you dislike people. It may mean your attention has already been divided all day, and one more demand feels larger than it looks from the outside. Modern life is especially good at turning small moments into open tabs. A notification can remain emotionally unfinished. A family question can follow you into the kitchen. A casual plan can become a performance of being the right kind of friend. The issue is not that connection is bad. Connection can be nourishing. The issue is that connection without choice can begin to feel like surveillance obligation or a test you never agreed to take. For many adults, this pattern also has a history. Maybe being easy to manage once felt safer than having needs. Maybe the people around you rewarded the version of you that was useful, cheerful, quick, or low maintenance. Maybe nothing was said directly. You simply learned to read the room. Those early lessons do not determine your future, but they can explain why a tiny request now carries an old emotional weight. This is why self-recognition matters more than self-accusation. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" try asking, "What exactly is this moment asking me to spend energy, privacy, attention, emotional labor?" The answer may be surprisingly practical. You may need a quieter evening, a clearer boundary, more time before answering, or a way to connect that does not require performing at full volume. There is also a quiet social pressure around freezing when asked a simple question. People often treat the visible behavior as the whole story. They see the delayed reply, the shorter answer, the declined invitation, or the careful expression. They do not see the inner math, how much stimulation has already happened, how much responsibility is sitting on the desk, how much emotional weather has been absorbed from other people. A compassionate interpretation does not excuse harm. It makes room for reality. You are allowed to be curious about what helps. Some people need a transition ritual, a walk around the block 10 minutes with the phone face down, music that asks nothing, a shower, a locked door, or a cup of tea before re-entering conversation. These are not magical fixes. They are small ways of telling your nervous system that one chapter has ended and another can begin. The point is not to become perfectly calm. The point is to become easier to find. There is a difference between preference and fear, and you do not have to solve that difference in one dramatic breakthrough. Preference says, "This is how I recover." Fear says, "I am not allowed to be seen." Preference gives you energy back. Fear can make your world smaller. Both can exist in the same person, sometimes on the same day. The useful question is not whether you are perfectly healthy. It is whether your choice leaves you more like yourself afterward. That distinction can change how you speak to the people you love. A boundary does not need a courtroom argument. "I can't talk right now, but I can tomorrow." "I want to come, but I only have an hour." "I need a quiet night." Small, honest sentences are not cold. They are often kinder than saying yes while silently disappearing inside the commitment. It can help to stop treating every uncomfortable feeling as a command. Feeling awkward does not always mean you have done something wrong. Feeling tired does not always mean you are lazy. Feeling protective of your time does not always mean you are selfish. A feeling can be a signal, and signals deserve attention. But a signal is not a verdict. You still get to decide what kind of person you want to be in response to it. That is where a little self-trust enters the picture. Self-trust is not the belief that you will always choose perfectly. It is the belief that you can notice your limits, repair when necessary, and try again without turning one difficult moment into a story about your character. When the pressure rises, you do not need a grand explanation for your humanity. You need a pause long enough to choose what is true. People who care deeply are often especially vulnerable to confusing responsibility with total access. They sense a shift in someone's tone, remember the unanswered message, and start writing explanations before anyone has asked for one. Care is valuable. But care without edges can become a full-time job no one assigned you. You can be attentive without being permanently on call. You can be kind without making every other person's comfort your emergency. A more spacious life is usually built through ordinary repetitions. You answer later and survive the discomfort. You name a smaller plan and the relationship remains. You take an evening for yourself and discover that rest does not erase your value. These moments can feel almost too small to count. Yet they are how a nervous system learns a new association. Connection can include choice, and choice can include warmth. The shadow side deserves respect too. When you are tired of being misunderstood, withdrawal can feel wonderfully clean. No explanations, no awkwardness, no chance of disappointing anyone. But complete withdrawal can also protect you from the very experiences that would prove you do not have to earn belonging through performance. The goal is not constant access. It is enough safe access to remain connected to your own life. A useful experiment is to make the next step smaller than your inner critic expects. Not a total reinvention. Try asking for a moment and answering in your own time. Let it be specific, brief, and reversible. Notice what happens in your body when you choose it. You are collecting information, not grading yourself. Over time, these small choices can teach you that boundaries are not walls, and closeness does not have to be exhausting. This matters because adulthood often rewards people for looking endlessly adaptable. We praise the person who is always on, always pleasant, always reachable, always willing to absorb the extra task. Yet a life built entirely around other people's comfort can leave no room for your own signal. A slower response is not selfish. It is one way of staying in contact with the person you are when the room gets quiet. Maybe you are not difficult. Maybe you have spent a long time translating yourself into a language that made everyone else comfortable. The next chapter is not becoming louder, tougher, or more available than you are. It is learning which forms of connection let you stay present without abandoning yourself. That is not a retreat from life. It is a more honest way back into it. If this feels familiar, notice the moment you most want to edit, hurry, or disappear this week, and ask what it is trying to protect. Deeply Wired is for general education and reflection, not diagnosis or mental health treatment.